Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at employee benefits. But not just any benefits, we're gazing into the crystal ball and exploring what the benefits landscape might look like in 2025. We've got a fascinating stack of research here, and I can't wait to dig in with you.
Yeah, and what's really exciting is that we're not just talking about, incremental changes here. We're talking about some pretty significant shifts driven by everything from, political decisions to advances in medicine to this whole evolving idea of what it means to have a good work-life
Yeah,
balance.
work-life balance, that feels like such a huge piece of the puzzle these days.
Absolutely. And companies are really starting to recognize that. But, before we get too deep into all of that, I think it's worth taking a quick look back at the 2024 election results, right? Because with the Trump administration back in the White House, there's a lot of uncertainty around healthcare policy in particular.
Yeah, so much uncertainty. Like those Affordable Care Act subsidies from the Inflation Reduction Act, for example, those are set to expire at the end of 2025.
Right. And if they aren't renewed, well, we could see premiums for folks who get their insurance through the marketplace go way up. I mean, significantly, which, could lead to fewer people enrolling overall. And that could really shift more of the cost burden onto
It's
employers.
a domino effect.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. And, it's not just the ACA we need to keep an eye on. There's been talk about changes to Medicare and Medicaid as well, which, of course, directly affects retiree benefits and supplemental coverage.
So employers really need to stay informed about all these potential policy changes,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because it could have a ripple effect on their whole benefit strategy.
Absolutely. They need to be proactive and, think ahead about how they might need to adjust their offerings.
Okay, so we've got this political piece of the puzzle, but let's zoom out for a second and talk about healthcare costs in general.
Mm.
I'm seeing projections of like a 7–8% increase in 2025.
Yeah, it's pretty alarming, isn't it? I mean, obviously, provider shortages and an aging population are contributing to that.
Right? The usual suspects.
But there's another trend that's really catching my eye, which is this increasing popularity of GLP-1 drugs for weight loss. So these were initially designed for diabetes, but now they're making headlines for their effectiveness in helping people shed pounds.
And they're not cheap, are they?
No, not at all. I mean, they cost around $1,000 per month per person. And to really see those benefits, people need to stay on them long term.
Right. So that's a significant cost for employers to consider covering, right?
Absolutely. I mean, some employers are looking into negotiating directly with pharmaceutical companies for better prices or implementing step therapy programs, where patients have to try less expensive options before moving on to GLP-1s.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then there's this whole conversation around offering, robust weight management programs that combine medication with lifestyle changes as a way to kind of address the root causes of obesity and potentially reduce that long-term need for expensive medications.
So it's not just a yes or no decision on covering GLP-1s. It's about creating a whole strategy around weight management.
Exactly. A much more holistic approach, I think.
Okay, so we've got healthcare costs rising, we've got new medications emerging, and then on top of that, we have all these evolving family dynamics that companies are trying to address.
Right. And it's no longer just about offering time off after a child is born or adopted. Companies are recognizing that supporting employees through that entire family building journey is crucial.
So what kinds of things are we talking about?
Well, we're seeing things like paid leave for fertility treatments, adoption assistance, surrogacy benefits, even financial assistance with egg freezing.
Wow, that's a big shift, isn't it?
It is. It's partly driven by that, tight labor market. Companies are really competing for top talent. But I also think it's a reflection of our changing social values. More and more people are delaying parenthood, exploring different paths to starting a family, and facing challenges like infertility. So companies are realizing they need to offer benefits that address those evolving needs.
And it's not just about the happy events either. Like, what about support for high-risk pregnancies, lactation consultants, postpartum care? Even menopause resources are becoming more common.
Exactly. Companies are taking a much more holistic approach to family well-being, recognizing that, it goes beyond that traditional maternity and paternity leave model. And this also ties into the political landscape, especially when it comes to reproductive rights, because, the political climate and state-level legislation around reproductive health is having a direct impact on employee benefits and even career choices.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good point. So how are companies managing that balance, between these big picture forces like politics and healthcare costs, and then these very personal individual needs that they're trying to address?
Well, one key trend is this move towards personalization and choice. So, companies are realizing that a one-size-fits-all benefits package doesn't work anymore. They're offering more options and flexibility, allowing employees to kind of customize their benefits to fit their own needs and priorities.
So it's less of a buffet and more of a build-your-own-meal situation.
Exactly. And, we see this in the rise of things like flexible spending accounts, where employees can set aside pre-tax dollars for, healthcare expenses or dependent care, and then lifestyle spending accounts, which are becoming increasingly popular.
I've heard about those. What can you use those for?
Oh, all sorts of things. Things like gym memberships, fitness trackers, healthy meal delivery services.
So it's all about giving employees that power to choose the benefits that best fit their lifestyle and goals.
Right, exactly. It's recognizing that not everyone needs the same support in the same areas.
Okay, so that's customization. That makes a lot of sense. And speaking of these, groundbreaking changes and sort of new ways of thinking about things, let's talk about GLP-1 drugs in a little more depth.
You sure?
They're really causing quite a stir in the healthcare world, aren't they? I mean, the demand for these drugs for weight loss is just skyrocketing.
Oh, absolutely. 1 in 8 Americans has already tried a GLP-1 drug, according to KFF, and those numbers are only going to go up.
Wow, 1 in 8. So are employers prepared to handle that kind of demand? I mean, the costs associated with that must be.
Well, yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because JP Morgan is actually predicting that 9% of the U.S. population could be on GLP-1s by 2030.
9%. That's a huge potential cost.
It is. It really is. And it's forcing those tough choices about coverage, eligibility, and cost sharing. I mean, how do you balance providing access to potentially life-changing treatments, even if they're really expensive?
Right. Or risk alienating employees who need this kind of support. So how are employers navigating that?
Well, some are considering setting, stricter eligibility criteria for coverage, like requiring a certain BMI or a history of weight-related health problems. And others are exploring those innovative payment models, where they only pay for the drug if it's actually effective. And then there's growing interest in incorporating genetic testing to identify individuals who are most likely to benefit.
That's fascinating. So many different approaches.
Yeah, there's no easy answer.
No, definitely not. But it's a good reminder that, these advancements in medicine, while exciting, come with a whole new set of challenges.
Okay, so we've talked about these cutting-edge drugs and rising healthcare costs. But amidst all of that, there's another player in the field that could actually help with affordability, and that's biosimilars.
Yes, biosimilars. They're kind of the unsung heroes of the pharmaceutical world.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people might not even know what they are. Can you just give us a quick explainer?
Absolutely. So biosimilars are essentially highly similar versions of existing biologic drugs, which are those drugs used to treat complex conditions like cancer, rheumatoid arthritis. They go through, a really rigorous approval process to ensure they're just as safe and effective as the original biologics. But the key difference is they come with a much lower price tag. Think of it like the generic version of a brand name drug.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they've already saved billions of dollars in healthcare spending. And they're only expected to play a bigger role going forward. So could they be the key to making these expensive specialty drugs more accessible?
Well, they certainly have the potential. The challenge is really encouraging that wider adoption because, there's still some hesitancy among healthcare providers and patients.
Sure.
But as more biosimilars come onto the market and prove their effectiveness, I think we'll see that shift happening.
So it's like a tug of war between innovation and affordability, isn't it? Because on one side, we have incredible new drugs like GLP-1s that offer hope for people struggling with chronic conditions, but they come with a high cost.
Right.
And then on the other side, we have biosimilars, offering a more affordable alternative, but facing challenges in gaining widespread acceptance.
Right. It's a balancing act.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's clear that employers and employees both need to be informed and proactive in navigating all of this. So stay tuned for part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll explore even more trends shaping the future of employee benefits and what it all means for you, our listener.
It's going to be good.
And we're back for part 2 of our deep dive into employee benefits in 2025. I don't know about you, but I'm still kind of reeling from that last segment. It's just so much change happening.
It is, isn't it? But I think in the midst of all that change, there are some really positive trends emerging too.
Yeah, I agree. Like this whole emphasis on personalization, for example.
Absolutely. It's like companies are finally recognizing that employees aren't a monolith, right? They have different needs, different
At
priorities.
different stages of their lives, too.
Exactly. I mean, a 25-year-old single person is going to have very different needs than, say, a 40-year-old with a family.
Oh, absolutely.
So it makes sense that benefits would start to reflect that, right?
Right.
And you see that really clearly in like family building benefits.
Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, in the past, it was all about, maternity leave. But now we're seeing companies offering support for everything from fertility treatments to adoption assistance to surrogacy.
And even beyond those sort of initial
Oh,
stages.
you're right. Yeah.
Because, I mean, access to quality childcare is huge. And then flexible work arrangements, backup care for those, like unexpected sick days. I mean, those are all crucial for working parents.
Yeah, I mean, it really does feel like companies are finally realizing that investing in family well-being is a business imperative, not just like a nice to have.
Absolutely. I mean, when employees feel supported in their personal lives, they're just going to be more engaged and productive at work.
Oh, 100%.
And, it's not just about families either. I think there's this growing awareness of the importance of mental health as well. And we're starting to see benefits that really address this too.
Yeah, we talked about, the rising cost of healthcare, but mental health is a huge part of that, right?
Absolutely. And if we can give employees the tools and resources to really manage their mental well-being, I mean, that's going to have a ripple effect on their overall health and productivity.
So what kinds of things are you seeing?
Well, access to therapy, counseling services, mindfulness programs. Some companies are even offering mental health days now.
Mental health days, I love that.
Yeah. And it's not just about providing access to like traditional therapy anymore. We're seeing so much innovation, like apps, online platforms that offer a range of support. It's all about meeting people where they are.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And speaking of meeting people where they are, what about this whole rise of technology in benefits, administration, and delivery?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it makes sense, right? Technology can streamline processes, improve communication.
Yeah. I mean, even things like those wearable fitness trackers that are so popular now, I mean, those can be integrated into wellness programs.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of companies are offering incentives for employees to stay active and make healthy choices, all tracked through those
It's
wearables.
like having a health coach on your wrist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, as great as all this technology is, it's important to remember it's just a tool.
Right, right.
I mean, we still need that human connection, that sense of empathy and understanding.
So it's about finding that balance, isn't it?
It really is. Between leveraging technology to enhance that benefits experience, but still maintaining that human element. And that also brings us back to, communication and education, because employers really need to do a better job of explaining those benefits options to their employees
Yeah.
and making sure that employees really understand how to access and utilize all the resources available to them.
It's not enough to just like throw a bunch of benefits at people and hope they figure it out on their own.
Exactly.
You need that like clear communication, personalized support.
Maybe even a little hand-holding.
Yeah, a little hand-holding. Because let's be real, benefits can be confusing.
Oh, for sure. Especially with all these new options and technologies. And then you layer on top of that all the financial aspects because, I mean, healthcare costs are rising. Student loan debt is a major burden for a lot of young people. Retirement just feels like this, like, distant dream for some.
Yeah, it can be really overwhelming. So what can companies do to help with that?
Well, that's where financial wellness programs come in. Things that can help employees budget, save, manage debt.
So it's about empowering employees to take control of their finances.
Exactly. Because when you think about it, financial stress can be a major distraction at work, right?
Yeah.
It can lead to decreased productivity, even health problems. So by addressing those needs, companies can create a much more supportive and productive work environment.
Okay, so we've talked about personalizing benefits, leveraging technology, supporting mental health, promoting financial wellness. What else? I mean, it feels like the world of employee benefits is just expanding in so many directions. And what about the gig economy? I mean, that's continuing to grow and more people are choosing to work as freelancers or independent contractors.
Right. And that presents a real challenge to those traditional benefits models because, those are usually tied to full-time employment.
Right. So what's happening there?
Well, it's still kind of a work in progress, but there are some innovative solutions emerging, like some companies are offering portable benefits packages that gig workers can take with them from job to job.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's like creating a safety net for gig workers because they often lack those traditional benefits. And then we're seeing the rise of these like platforms and marketplaces that connect gig workers with benefits providers.
So giving them access to a wider range of options.
Yes.
Okay, so it sounds like the future of employee benefits is all about flexibility, personalization,
Mm-hmm.
meeting the evolving needs of a diverse workforce.
Yep. And really creating a work environment where everyone feels valued, supported, and empowered.
And it's about recognizing that benefits are not just like a cost of doing business,
Mm,
but an investment in people.
absolutely. And as we move further into the 2020s, I think we're only going to see even more innovation in the benefit space.
Oh, yeah. It's an exciting time. I mean, it feels like we're at this like crossroads where we can really reshape the relationship between employers and employees
Mm-hmm.
and create a workplace that truly supports the whole person.
Absolutely. So now I want to turn it back to you, our listener. What are your hopes and fears for the future of employee benefits? What kind of workplace do you want to be a part of? We'll be exploring those questions further in the final part of our deep dive into employee benefits in 2025.
Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into the future of employee benefits.
It's been a wild ride.
It really has. We've covered so much ground.
We have everything from those massive healthcare costs to the gig economy to, the impact of politics.
And this whole push for personalization, I mean, it seems like that's a key theme that keeps coming up. Right.
Absolutely. And I think it really speaks to a larger shift we're seeing in how companies approach benefits.
It does. It's like they're finally realizing that benefits are more than just, a line item on a budget.
Right. It's not just about, offering ping pong tables and free snacks anymore.
Definitely not.
Companies are starting to understand that benefits are a really powerful way to show employees that they're valued and invested in.
It's like benefits are becoming a reflection of a company's culture and values.
I think that's a really great point.
It's no longer enough to just offer the bare minimum.
Exactly. Employees are looking for companies that align with their own personal values.
Yeah, whether it's sustainability or social justice or work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
And they expect to see those values reflected in the benefits package, too.
I agree. I think it's becoming part of the company brand, even. Yeah.
It is. It's a way to attract and retain talent
Yeah.
who, share that vision.
Absolutely. And I think that's where this whole idea of total rewards comes into play.
Oh, total rewards. What's that?
So it's basically recognizing that compensation goes beyond just a paycheck, right?
Oh, okay.
It's about creating a more holistic package that supports employees' well-being in all aspects of their lives.
So it's not just salary and health insurance.
No, not at all. We're talking about things like flexible work arrangements, professional development opportunities, resources for mental and financial wellness.
It's like recognizing that employees are whole people,
Right. Exactly. They have lives outside of work, and those lives impact their work.
Right. So it's almost like we're moving away from this very transactional view
Yeah.
of work. I give you my time, you give me money, and towards a more holistic approach where companies are really investing in their employees' well-being.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
It makes sense. When employees feel supported and valued, they're going to be more engaged and productive.
Absolutely. It's a win-win.
It is. So how does all this translate to the individual?
I mean, what does it mean for, you listening to this right now?
Yeah. What does this future of employee benefits mean for our listeners?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to remember that you have more power than you might realize. Don't be afraid to advocate for the benefits that are most important to you.
That's such a good point. Because it's easy to feel like, benefits are just handed down from on high, and there's nothing you can do about it.
But that's not true. You have a voice in this process.
You do?
Do your research, talk to your HR department, let your employer know what you need to feel supported and valued.
Yeah. Make your voice heard.
And the other thing to remember is that, the world of work is constantly changing.
It is. I mean, it's changing so fast.
The skills that are in demand today might be obsolete tomorrow.
Ugh, so true.
So embrace lifelong learning. Take advantage of professional development opportunities, stay curious, and be adaptable.
That's so important.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just, get a job and coast,
No, definitely not. And, benefits can actually play a key role in that. So when you're looking at different job opportunities, look for companies that offer tuition reimbursement or mentorship programs, those opportunities for skill building.
Yeah, those are good signs. And I guess at the end of the day, the future of work is not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Right. There are so many different paths to success, and what works for one person might not work for another.
Yeah. So don't be afraid to, forge your own path, explore different options.
Exactly. Find a career that aligns with, your passions and your priorities.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive,
We have.
from those, nitty-gritty details of healthcare costs to this more philosophical shift towards a more holistic view of work.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it all boils down to this question: what kind of workplace do you want to be a part of?
A place where you feel valued and
A
respected.
place where you can grow and learn and contribute your unique talents.
A workplace that aligns with your values and helps you achieve your goals.
That's it. And we hope this deep dive has given you, some food for thought and maybe even inspired you to take some action.
Right. Whether that's advocating for better benefits at your current job or, exploring new opportunities.
The future of work is in your hands.
It really is.
And as always, we encourage you to check out the additional resources provided by our team and to continue the conversation on social media.
We love hearing from you.
We do. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of employee benefits.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.